Very good morning to all of our colleagues that are here. Thank you for joining. I'm sure a lot of us have already met by now. My name is Keshni Reddy, and I am joined today by my colleagues Nasha and Paulina and Lorna, who are all part of our ESD implementation program and head up the linkage side of it. I think just to give an introduction of today's session, the purpose is really for us to give our newbies that have joined the program for the first time an insight into what the supplier matchup sessions are all about, how they work in terms of format, and then also what happens after the sessions. And really, the biggest takeaway for today is for us to just drive urgency and importance around making sure that you make every effort that you can to attend. So even in the case where you can't personally attend, you're welcome to send a representative to attend on your behalf. The recordings are shared post the session with all program participants. However, when it comes to the supplier matchup sessions, this is your opportunity to engage one-on-one with the buyers, with corporate buyers from across both public and private sector, across the different industries. So it's really a case if you miss it, you miss out, and we don't want that to happen. As you know, you would have received your onboarding documents and the program, and supplier matchup is one part of that. Of your program benefits, but it's also a really, really important part of it, as it's links directly back with how we can connect you and your business with buyers across the different industries, as well as within your own industry. So as Smart Procurement, we do represent Africa and South Africa's largest procurement community. We are constantly trying to onboard and engage new buyers into our networks and link you up with them. The buyer matchup session, I'll hand over to my colleague Nasha in a moment, and she'll take you through it. But it's very much an opportunity for us to understand how it is that we can become a part of an organization's database, what their sourcing needs are at any particular moment, and also for the long term. If there's no immediate opportunity, how do we make sure that we are keeping top of mind? And when an opportunity arises, we can go in and get that. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you now, Nash, and you can just take us through how the sessions work and what the agenda is as well for the rest of the program.
Thank you so much, Kesh, for that introduction, and thanks to everyone that is joining us today. I would like to give you a warm welcome to our program. We're excited to have you here. So as Keshni mentioned in our opening, Supplier MatchUp is really to help your business so that you find out more about procurement opportunities available at corporate companies. So just to give you information on how this works. So basically, Supplier MatchUp happens on a monthly basis. So it is geared to bring in corporate buyers to speak to you about their procurement needs and also to educate you on how best you can start doing business with them. So there are online sessions, and sometimes we also have physical sessions. So I'm going to share with you the schedule for all the different sessions that we are having. Paulina, if you can move to the second slide, please. Okay, there we go. Thank you. All right, so how it's structured is that we have supplier matchup sessions on a monthly basis. It's about 2 hours where we invite about an average of 4 to 5 buyers. So how the session works is that we do an interview with the buyer. So that's a 15-minute buyer interview. So this is where we really ask them questions in terms of their procurement process. If they have a supplier database, how does one get on it? If they have any opportunities available, how do they advertise those opportunities? Do they put them on their website? Do you have to apply in a different manner? So it is an interview that is geared to really ask those questions with a buyer so that you know that if you want to do business with ABSA, for example, how do you go about it? So once that interview is done, then we have 30 to 45 minutes of one-to-one SMME meetings with the suppliers. So we go into breakout rooms where you'll be able to present your offerings to the corporate buyer and also ask some direct questions that you might want to ask to the buyer. So this happens after the session is done. And how do we choose the SMMEs that are going to be in a breakout room? So typically we want to make it very relevant to you. So we make sure that you join a breakout room where the services that you offer is relevant for that particular corporate buyer. So although we don't discourage you to join any session, but I think it's better to maximize your time with a buyer that needs the service that you're offering. So we do that breakout room, and then after that, we also arrange meetings with corporate buyers one-to-one if you need to explore any opportunities further. So Paulina, if you can move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is the schedule for 2023. So our first session is actually next week. So we've grouped them into different industries. This is really to help you focus and know which sessions you want to be part of. So we do encourage that you are part of every session, because different company, even if it's a mining company, maybe there might be in need of a graphic designer. So you really just need to make sure that you attend everything that you can, so that at least you get to know what the requirements of that particular business is. So to start off, on the 17th of May, which is next week, we're starting with energy and mining, and this will be an online session. So all the information will be shared with you. We'll send a calendar invite. We'll share the information of the corporate buyers that are going to be part of that session. And then 15 June, it's going to be construction and facilities management. It's also an online session as well. And then for 18 July, we're going to have an in-person session. So this is an Indaba briefing where we are preparing you for the big Indaba event, so that you will know exactly how to engage with corporate buyers when we go to that event. But in that same briefing, we'll also invite buyers in the finance, insurance, and ICT. So we will advise in terms of where the location will be, the time. So we'll send that in good time so that you can prepare. So it's also good that you can also diarize these dates. We will send these dates to you after the session. So just make sure that you block them off on your calendar, so that at least when the time comes, then you will be able to attend. On the 17th of August, then we are focusing on the services industry. It's going to be an online session. And then the 13th of September, the big event in Indaba. It's open to all industries. And previously, for last year, we had over 35 buyers that came through for those sessions. So it is important that you attend those sessions, you network with other SMMEs, but also you engage with the corporate buyers. They have tables where they'll be sitting, you go, you approach, you target the ones that you want to target, you learn about their procurement processes. October, we're going to have an agri-processing online session. And then the 16th of November, it's FMCG/retail. And then next year, February, that will be the last session that we'll have, and it's open to all industry. It's a physical event. So this is the schedule for all the supplier matchups that are coming up. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat. Sorry, Paulina, you can go to the next slide. Okay, So we do understand that, you know, with load shedding, not everyone is able to attend all the sessions. So we do record all sessions, and we make sure that after every session, we send this information to you. So if you want to reference back to see what the corporate buyer said about their procurement process, or you need to engage with them and you need to refresh your mind, we always make those sessions available. So if you can't attend for one reason or the other, we will make sure that you'll be able to attend. So we have a lot of supplier matchup sessions that have happened previously. So we will also make sure that you get access to watch the previous supplier matchup sessions that we have had in the past. And then after you've watched the sessions, if you're interested in engaging with a company that previously did supplier matchup, you can engage with us, you can let us know, and then we will be able to connect you with those particular buyers. Paulina, you can move to the next slide, please. Okay, so as much as we bring these sessions to you, you also have a responsibility as a supplier. So we sent you links for your profiles. If we haven't, we will send you links to complete your profiles. So we need a complete profile that really states exactly what you do, because this will help the buyers know exactly what you're into. So for example, we have a supplier matchup session. Sometimes a buyer will say to us, look, there was so-and-so who was part of the meeting. I'm really interested to have further conversation with them. So if we have your profile, we already send that profile to them, and then we arrange for a meeting. So it is very imperative that your profile stays up to date and it's got the information, and that will help the buyer see exactly it is that you do. And then when you have meetings, like in the sessions, you ask questions, or you have one-on-one sessions in the breakout rooms, please, we need your feedback on the meetings, because this is necessary for us to see if there's anything we can do to help you further or to gauge your progress through the program. So it is important that once you have a meeting with a buyer in the breakout room or after the supplier matchup, you come back to us with the feedback on the meetings. And then taking initiative. So this is networking. This is where you can see buyers close enough. We bring people that sometimes maybe normally it will be difficult for you to reach out to. So this is your chance. So you need to take initiative. Like in one of the sessions, I remember the breakout rooms, there was one SME who presented his products. So he took out a slide when it was his turn to speak to the buyer. He took out his presentation. He did a brief presentation on his services, his offerings, and it helped the corporate buyer to see that, okay, this is what this company does. And, you know, it was taking initiative. So you really need to do that when we have those sessions. And as I mentioned earlier, you need to make it a point to make sure that you attend all sessions that are planned and ensure that you participate. If you've got questions, don't be shy to ask. We can always ask, or if you think about something after the session is done, you can always contact us and send us the question for the buyer, and we will surely forward that to the buyer. And then most importantly, you need to network. So in these sessions, it's not only for you to network with the buyers, but also networking amongst yourself. Maybe there's someone who's providing a service that you need, or maybe you can provide a service to someone else. So it is important that when you get into a session, you try and know the people that are in the session, that, okay, what does Nyasha do? What services does she provide? Because you can work together. Maybe there's a buyer that needs something that you don't necessarily provide. You can work together with that particular SMME and offer that service to the buyer. So that's about it. I don't know if there's any questions. If there's any questions, please just put them in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions. Okay, Paulina, do you see any raised hands? I can't see from my end. Okay, I see you now in the chat. Zainu, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly. I see you've typed something I. Is there anything maybe you can unmute and ask your question?
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, loud and clear. How
Nasha?
are you? Yes,
Okay. Okay, how are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. I'm going to ask the same question I asked in the last session.
Okay.
There's a disconnect between buyers, and that's obviously supply chain, and the business. The business requirements may be completely priorities rather, is completely different. As an example, supply chain gets measured on, so I'm giving you an example, BE spend. Okay. But the business are not measured the same way. So, there's definitely a disconnect between the two. We need to find a way in which to bridge that gap so that the priorities of business or the priorities of supply chain, that business understands them as well. I know it's very general, and I know it's a sweeping statement, but certainly something that needs to be looked at.
Okay, no, definitely.
You normally, sorry, and I'm going to just indulge me for another 30 seconds. We, we get excited when we talk to supply chain, and they get excited when they see our services and the company we are, and then when you get to the business, it just falls flat. And that's a challenge that we face. Other people may have different experiences, but that's certainly our experience.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I think that's a very valid point. From
Hello? It's Casella.
Okay, I don't know if
Sorry
Casella.
to chip in. I don't know how to. I don't see the option of raising a hand here on my screen. I've logged in from my phone as I'm on the road.
Okay.
If you may give me a chance, because I also want to elaborate on the current concern that the previous person raised.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, if it's in the same line, then you can go ahead.
Yeah, because the disconnect is quite a serious problem, because it also, I think, if we can solve that problem, then there wouldn't be any problems between us getting the business, and because we can do the programs, we can do all these good things that supply chain is bringing. The policies are good, the rules are good, but we get the training, we can get the equipment, but as long as that disconnect is there, we don't get to use whatever we've learned in the training, we don't get to use the equipment, and we don't get the business from the operation side or from the end user side. I think there's quite I see a priority on procurement side, on supply chain side, to sort of step into or to start using the SMMEs and start developing them. But because of that disconnect, it does not go any further than that, because it doesn't get to the other end. It's like we only go halfway, but the other half is where the business is supposed to come in, where operations is supposed to come in, where the end user is supposed to chip in. But they don't share the same sentiment. It's like two different companies that have two different values.
Okay.
So I think that is quite a big problem. That is really a big problem. That disconnect needs to be given an urgent attention if possible. I think that is my take, also my input.
Okay, thank you so much for your input. I think you both raise a valid point. So from my experience, what I've noticed is that sometimes when we have these sessions, you might not get business immediately, but it will happen. So I have an SMME that I just want to jump in here. So he was part of our 2021 program. His name is John. So he attended many sessions, and like you're saying that sometimes it feels like there is a disconnect, but eventually he got business out of it. So I would love for him to come on. John, if you can hear me, please can you unmute?
Hi, how are you guys? How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? Thanks so much for joining us, John.
No, thank you. Thank you. I've just been struggling to join simply because of, the current situation, but eventually I managed to get all of you guys. Just like to say hi to everybody. Once I joined in, I just had, I don't know who was speaking, and then I could hear some of the concerns that they were having regarding, of course, the disconnect that usually happens between a supplier and a client.
Mm.
Well, I was part of the program in 2021 in February when we had a sort of a matchup meeting where about 15 buyers that were there. And of course, I mean, I'd also for quite some time been worried that, sometimes you get to these meetings and they only become like talk shows and then they never amount to anything. But then with constant follow-up of the client, because I think then we don't need to discount the fact that in business, continuously following up with your clients and just bother them, because those guys, they've got a lot of people to deal with. And if you just probably send them your profile maybe today and then you keep quiet for the next 2-3 weeks, they'll probably forget about you. So what I did was that I found the guys who are the companies that were just within my spectrum or within my services offering, which is I'm into mechanical engineering. And then when we were at the matchup in Parktown, there was a company called Grinding Media. I don't know if any one of you knows Grinding Media. What they do is that they do make steel iron, or let me say steel balls for ball mills. So ball mills is for the processing of gold and crushing and what have you. So they're based in Jamestown, and they're there by Score Metals industrial complex. So what they actually do is that they do the blast furnacing work. They work with steel. What's steel like porridge? Still very hot. I think you've seen it, guys, on TV. But looking at, of course, at my company, I thought maybe I cannot be able to work with them because I thought that they would prefer to work with a very big company who can be able to offer them the kind of service that I wouldn't be able to offer them. But I continued to request for meetings, to send them, of course, emails, just checking if they still remember me, and resend back again my profile. I think eventually they got tired of me bothering them, and then they called me for a meeting. When they called me for a meeting, we sat down, and then I showed them the scope of work that I can be able to do. They were quite excited simply because they were also looking for some of the contractors, simply because they simply just wanted to mix up their old contractors and new contractors. So as we speak right now, I actually work for Grinding Media. I've done quite a lot of pumps for them. I've done a lot of gearboxes for them. I've done welding work. I've done almost everything that is to do with engineering with them. And I mean, our relationship has been great. It was really difficult to start simply because I was never been in a setup such as theirs. But as we go, I think our friendship became to a certain marriage that today I cannot even run away from. So I think with consistent and pushing, like what we always do every day. I mean, you know how we are. We are always pushing and just try to break all those doors. We just have to continue to do that. But again, on the very same meeting, I actually met Mark Steele. Mark Steele, what they were doing is that they were running a program called the USISO program. The USISO program, I think some of you guys can be able to get hold of Mark Steele because they're still running that program. But I was so lucky that day, when I went for that matchup, they were there, and then that's when they were initiating the program. So what the program entailed was that they would come to your workshop, they vet your workshop or your place of work, and then they'll give you credit as a B company. So what you do is that if you've got any work that has to do with you supplying steel somewhere, be it an industry, be it in a mine, be it anywhere, they'll give you steel on credit for, and then you pay in 90 days. Even though they give you on credit, they'll also give you with a discount that is called USISO program discount, whereby since you're a BE, you can be able to get the steel on discount. So those are the two guys that I really had a very good connection with, and not saying that the other companies I never did try to follow up, but I just thought that, you know what, in a bunch of 15, if you can be able to get 2 that can be able to take you somewhere. And some of the companies, I'm still looking forward again to follow up with them, not really follow up, but again start initiating contact. Guys, I met you last year. I met you in Parktown when we were having a matchup and this and that and that. But that was my experience with the matchup session that we had last year. And according to me, it's been very beneficial. You guys should understand that the economy has been very bad for the past years. And if you can get 1 or 2 clients that are willing to work with you, that's another revenue that is coming into your company. So I was quite grateful for this matchup session that we had in Parktown. And thank you so much, Nisha, for that.
Well, thank you so much, John, for joining us and for your experience, for sharing your experience with everyone on the call. We really appreciate that. And I'm so happy that you've managed to get value out of this program and also just to encourage others that are on this call. Also, I just want to, Casella, I see you raised your, are you raising your hand? Is this an old one or maybe if you can just unmute?
Yes. Yes, yeah. No, I just wanted to make it clear that the disconnect that we're talking about is not between supplier and client. It's within the organizations themselves, between supply chain and end users. Let me put it that way. There's disconnect between there. So the disconnect is not we're talking about is not between supplier and client or supplier and supply chain. It's within the organizations, from the operations, your end users, and the supply chain. There's a disconnect.
Okay, all right. Maybe if I can ask a question and my colleague to jump in there.
Yes, thank you.
Guys, as you've realized that I joined the meeting a little bit late, I've been struggling to get hold of to get the network, but I noticed that I actually commented on some wrong information simply because I just didn't start with you. But anyway, I think from what I've said, you might have gotten 1 or 2 ideas on what I've benefited from. Thank you.
No, definitely. Your comment or what you shared was quite valuable. It was quite valuable. We do need to be persistent. We do need to do follow-ups all the time. That is quite valuable information, quite valuable input. I just wanted to sort of just to help you out on the part of the disconnect. That's all.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Nash, if you don't mind, I'd like to jump in because I know that we had this conversation as well, and I think, it's feedback like this that actually helps us to make the program better. And yes, we know that there is a disconnect, but we obviously, obviously our relationships kind of sit, within the procurement department and across the different category managers. But our commitment is really to take you through the entire process. So, in a case where we've initiated a meeting and you are finding that, you're hitting against a brick wall or a closed door within a particular organization, please bring that feedback back to us, because we can then go back and try and, engage from our relationships. We can engage the levels below and get them involved in the conversation and, with the meetings as well. Another thing that we have been increasingly trying to do in terms of our buyer program is include different facets of whoever is involved in the buying process. So if any of you attend our physical matchup as well, you will see that one organization could come, but they would come with up to 10 to 15 different colleagues from that organization, all that are either different category managers, or even in the case where it is end users that are looking for something specific at that time. But I think, John, just coming back to your testimonial, it goes back to, yes, it's, we can open all of these doors, but walking through and just the persistence and the perseverance, well done on that. So yeah, I think Casella, Zainal, if I hope I've answered the question. And like we say, this is the start of the program. I know that, this is a frustration, and certainly, it's not a frustration that you share alone, even with us trying to, work on our various product offerings. You'll have a meeting with one who you think is a decision maker, and there's a perfect fit, perfect alignment, and it's really disappointing when it's only because somebody has not given you the time of day and you've not had an opportunity to pitch your offering to a specific end user that you get shut down. And yeah, like I'm saying, our commitment really through the buyer program. So beyond even the matchup is the linkage program, right? Where we do the one-on-one. So even if you've come through, you've attended a matchup session, possibly you're not getting, or you're not getting joy in moving the process forward, bring it to Nasha, bring it to Paulina, and let us then try through our relationships to assist you in opening the other doors within that organization. Thanks, Nash.
Thanks, Kesh, for that. I see Zeno has his hand raised up. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I lifted my hand. Yeah, um, the things that John spoke about and you guys are speaking about is very valid. You have to be persistent. You have to ensure that you, if you like, in their face all the time. And sometimes we need to piggyback on a company program that the company has. That normally is that everybody needs to buy into that particular program. So that begins to open the door, if you like, or you're in part of that program, because the company program wants to be successful. So therefore, if we can leverage of that, that helps a lot. And also, let's be positive. When we make these comments, it's not to be negative. It's just to make you aware that these are some of the blockers that we do face. But I'm so positive. So let's be positive and say, right, um, let's give it a chance. Let's do what we have to do. And Keshni is right. If we do find blockers, we need to come back to you guys and say, hey, we've got a blocker here, or we're not really making headway here. Please assist. And I'm sure you guys are more than willing to do that. So yeah, I'm positive, and let's take it forward.
Well, thank you so much for that. Yes, I always say, even with previous groups, that whenever you're following up on something, you are welcome to CC me in the communication, because if I see that you've tried once, twice, there's no response, I can jump in, because most of these companies we do have relationships with. So I can jump on a call and say, look, what is this position on this? How can we move forward? Who's the right person for this? So you're more than welcome to engage us whenever you're facing challenges with these companies. Okay, and we definitely value the feedback, because it helps us improve our program, and also we want to help you. We want to help your business. So the more you make these situations, you make us aware of these issues, then we can do something about it. So thank you so much for that. Are there any more questions that anyone wants to ask? Feel free. We have a few more minutes. If you want, you can write in the chat or just unmute. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Richard. How are you doing today?
Good, and you?
I'm great, thanks. Please go ahead.
Yes, the colleagues that came before me, I think they are spot on in the issues that they have raised. Our solutions in the tech industry, for example, in our business, they are quite specialized. It's not something that you just approach supply chain. I'm going to make a very silly example, and not really to offend any business or what, because I mean, we have to accept that businesses are different. If I'm selling stationery, and I approach supply chain, those are easy sells. It's easier to have a conversation, and they just procure, and then they give the products to the business. But our solutions, being business applications, they are quite specialized. They also entail a little bit of long-term commitment. once they are procured. And you find that, the procurement is never easy. You need IT to be involved because of the cost involved. You probably need finance to be involved, supply chain. You also need the line of business to be involved. So, in all honesty, meeting one of the parties, it just makes it that much longer of a conversation to get all the stakeholders to join heads and I ultimately say yes, we will procure your solutions. So effectively what I'm saying is we will almost always need new colleagues to be a part of the conversation when we meet with the buyers, because in my experience, most of the buyers, you speak with one, then the three you never get to speak with as much as you would like to. So it's almost like it's a specialized cell as well. I don't know if there is a better way of handling this, but it's definitely most certainly needed in our environment.
Thank you so much, Richard, for that comment. I think you raise a very valid point. So usually what we do, especially when it comes to the linkages, the one-on-one linkages, we've got your profile. And when we approach a company, we don't just approach a procurement person, we approach the person that actually deals with your product. So we ask for the category manager for that particular product that you're doing. So in that way, we know we're speaking to the right person. So even when we bring corporate buyers here, when you have one-on-one meetings, we encourage you to then reach out to them and say, okay, look, this is what I'm doing. It's specialized. Who can I speak to? Because he might not be the person, but he will need to direct you to the right person. So that's how we handle that. And also, generally, I find that when it comes to specialized services, so you might think you are at a disadvantage, but I think you're actually at an advantage in the sense that not everybody does what you do. And most times we have companies that look for that specialized services. They come to us, please, can you help us find this because we can't find, because for example, there's some, like some industries or some services that every other person is providing. But with your specialized services, it makes you more attractive in a sense, for lack of a better word. Because most companies will come to us, maybe an MTN will come to us and say, I'm looking for IT specifically. So I don't necessarily think that you're at a disadvantage, and we are hand holding you. We are actually with you throughout. So if you need to meet a person who is specific to this, we'll make sure that we prep you for those meetings, and we also find the relevant person at that organization. So I don't know if that answers your question. Okay, all right, I see the chat. Okay. All right, thank you so much. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, we will conclude the session. If you think of any questions after the session, then you're more than welcome to send them to us. Also, we will send out the document that we were using today. If you want to refresh, if you want this recording, we can also send the recording to you guys so that you can look at some of the things that we've discussed. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Nyasha.
Yes, Keshni, do you have any closing remarks?
Thank you, Nyasha. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much.
And Keshni.
Nothing from my side, Ash. Thank you, Zainal. I think thank you for your time, colleagues. All the best for the rest of the program, the linkage and the supplier matchups. And looking forward to seeing you all at next week's session. I'm sure the agenda will be shared in the next few days. So you'll be able to see which buyers will be a part of it, and look forward to your success thereafter.